All right, today we are graphing linear equations in slope-intercept form. Actually, today we won't graph a whole lot. We're going to prepare ourselves for graphing. So our objective today is going to be to find the slope of a line. Tomorrow we'll talk more about how to actually graph using that. For our warm-up, one of our homework problems was to simplify this expression using the values they gave us for those variables. So anytime we're told to simplify, the first thing we should do is what? Plug those in. So 8 parentheses, -2, my W is a -4, so I'll put that in parentheses, plus 5, my C was equal to 9, and then plus 6 on the end. Notice I kept my original parentheses around the -2 all the way till after the C, but I added parentheses around what my variables were when we plugged them in. To simplify this, we have to use our order of operations. First operation is parentheses, so anything inside parentheses happens first. Now there's nothing happening inside these parentheses with the -4, but in our bigger set of parentheses, we could almost highlight them or treat them more like brackets. Inside here is where we're focusing. So inside our big set of parentheses, what should we do first? Hunter?
-2 -4.
Good, we can start off by multiplying. So the 8 on the outside stays put. -2 times -4 gives me a +8. Plus, okay, we can go ahead and do our other multiplication and get 45. And the plus 6 is on the very end. We still have parentheses, or you can switch them to brackets around 8 plus 45, so that has to happen next. What do we get? Dominic? 53. Okay, now what do these parentheses mean now that there's nothing left but one number inside? We gotta multiply 8 times 53. What do we get? 424, and then our last step is to add 6, and what do we get? 430. Now, being able to plug in numbers and do your order of operations is important for finding slope. That's why we had that as our homework, even though it's a topic we've covered a couple times. Questions, concerns about our homework? The one we chose to do as a warm-up. Dominic?
Will we be having this on Friday from this Friday onwards?
What do you mean?
Like the expression worksheet 10 problems long.
Oh, we might have more of them in the future. I haven't planned out specifically what days. It's possible we'll keep reviewing these as long as it seems like we keep needing practice. Any other questions? Okay, let's get into our notes. Again, I'll tell you the most important stuff to get written down. If you had to guess, what do you think on this slide is going to be really important? The bottom. That's a good observation. That's why it's all nice and big and condensed for you. So the bottom of this slide is most important to go in your notes. I would not write out the whole paragraph, but I would write all that stuff at the bottom, all the different ways we talk about slope. I'll give you a minute to get that down before I start talking about it all. The slope, or the letter we use for it is M, slope or M, of a non-vertical line, usually it's going to be a slanted line of some sort, passing through 2 points, is the ratio of the rise, or the change in y, to the run, which is change in x. So what we'll usually use for slope is M we will use the words rise over run a lot. And we will talk about y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 a lot. Okay, this is how we can find slope if we know 2 points. So in the picture, it's nice that they show us rise and run to get from one point to another. So rise meaning how it changes going up and down, run meaning how it changes side to side. This is what will tell us the slope of a line. And our focus today is just to talk about slope. Questions, concerns, or need more time on this slide? Okay. These are the 4 types of slope. I would also have these in your notes. Positive, negative, 0, and undefined. The words underneath can be helpful, especially for 0 and undefined. Rises, well, it might not highlight it. The line rises, the line falls, horizontal, vertical. Instead of rises and falls, sometimes we talk about it going uphill versus going downhill. These are the 4 types of slope that we'll see. Anytime you see a line, you should be able to just look at it and know if its slope is going to be positive, negative, 0, or undefined. Okay, positive goes uphill, negative goes downhill, 0 is when it's horizontal, undefined is when it is vertical. Need more time still? Okay. Then let's continue on. On these, we are asked to describe the slope. So that means one of our 4 options we just had. And then also find the slope. And our hint is to use rise over run. Okay, so first, number 1A. If you look at that line, how would you describe its slope? Positive, good. It rises from left to right. Okay, so if you wanted to draw a quick sketch of it, you could. You don't necessarily need a whole coordinate plane. If you just show a line that rises, and then if you were to show their rise and run that they labeled for you down here at the bottom, and then up here, they labeled these 6 and 4. Okay, so you don't need a whole coordinate plane. If you have this, that's enough to be able to tell that your slope is positive, goes uphill. And then if we want to actually say what our slope is, or what m equals, what is the rise in this case? Rise meaning, which direction would rise go? Up and down. So our rise is 4. That's the one that showed us going up or down. In this case, it's up. Over, our run was 6. Questions about rise over run, what those words mean to us? Okay, but what do we notice about the fraction 4 over 6?
We can't be divided out.
It can be simplified, yes, by dividing. We could divide both top and bottom by
Someone's at the door,
a 2. 4 divided by 2 is? No one knows 4 divided by 2?
2. It's
Jaisha
2.
knows it. Thank you. 2. And 6 divided by 2 is?
3.
Thank you, Jaisha. So we can simplify our slope to be 2/3. Questions about 1A? Okay, on 1B, you can do the same thing. Just look at the graph. Is slope positive, negative, 0, or undefined?
Oh, we doing this?
What is it? Negative. It goes downhill. And this time when we list our slope, or M, we're still doing rise over run. This time, what's my rise?
2.
Careful.
3.
Even more careful. Dominic?
The rise is the.
Can I let someone else answer?
Sure. Liam, what do you think?
-3.
-3. So the rise this time goes down. So it's -3 and our run is 2. Okay, think about an elevator would rise up or down. And if you run, you're probably going side to side. I don't think you can run up or down. Unless stairs are involved. But we're going with flat surfaces. Rise over run. Now, it should make sense to us that M is equal to a negative number because we said our slope is negative. Those things should match up. Here, we said we had a positive slope. M was a positive number. Questions about these first two examples? Dominic?
Will a plus and a minus sign help us on our homework assignment for today?
Knowing, yes, the difference between positive and negative will help you out. Other questions?
Yes. Do we turn the homework in or not?
No, I checked it. So if you get it out, I'll come check it.
Okay.
All right, moving on. On these ones, it's just like what we were just doing, except this time you have to decide your rise and your run. Okay, so we have to figure out from these graphs what the rise and the run are going to be. All right, first let's just go through and say positive, negative, 0, undefined. Letter C has a negative slope. We can see that it's going downhill. What about letter D?
Positive.
Positive slope. It's going uphill. Jaisha, did you have a question?
No.
Oh, okay. What about E?
Positive.
It's positive. It's just pretty steep, right? We're going up that hill. That's a pretty steep hill to go up. But it still is going up from left to right. So it is also positive. So undefined is when it's perfectly vertical, straight up and down. A 0 slope when it's perfectly horizontal, straight side to side. So now let's talk about our rise and our run. I always recommend starting at the point on the left side of your graph and then thinking about how you would get to the right side. If you would rather start at the other point, that's fine. But if they give this graph to us, we might as well use it. So how far down do I have to drop or do my rise right here to be in line with my other point? 2. And since I went down, that should be a -2. And then how far over would I have to run to get to my point? 5. A +5 because we went to the right. If you want to put arrows on those movements, you can. So our slope, or M, is rise over run, or -2 over 5. Questions about finding our slope on letter C? Okay, again, we said it was negative. We show a negative number. That makes sense. On letter D, this time, when I do my rise, if I start at my left side point, am I going up or down to get my rise? Up.
Up.
How many? So I want to go up just to be able to be in line with that point.
4.
I think 4, right? So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're straight in line with that other point. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, if we were to go up 5, then we wouldn't be in line with it anymore. And if we only went up 3, we wouldn't be in line with it. Okay, so we had a rise of a positive 4 since we went up. Now what about our run over? Good, we had to go over to the right, so that's a positive 6. So M equals rise over run. But this time, 4 over 6, we already talked about, can be reduced. What does it become? 2 over 3. We should always reduce it if we can. Questions about letter D? Okay. Letter E, again, start at your left side point, work to the right side point. This time, how many do we have to rise?
3.
I think just 3, right? 1, 2, 3. That gets me in line.
Wait, how is it 3?
Oh, I think you're right. It's more because they changed our scale, didn't they? So what is it really?
4.
I think it's a little more than that.
5.
5, right? Because we started halfway through a box. They got us on that one with their scale. So if each box is 2 and they started halfway between, then our rise is actually going to be a positive 5. Are we okay with that? You could also think about what it takes to get... Oh, I think it's more than 5 even. So if each box is 2, we've got 2, 4, 6, and then a little more. So really it's 7. There we go. Okay. Then when we run, let's make sure we don't make that same error again. When we run, how many do we go over? 3, because 2 and then another half a box. So 3. Okay. This time, what is our M? 7 over 3. Do not change these into mixed numbers. If that's something that you did in another math class or in junior high or something, don't do it here. Leave it as an improper fraction. Dominic?
Is it because of is that the rule here?
That's the rule for slope. Slope is a ratio. I need it just as a fraction, not as a mixed number. So we need it to be just a plain old fraction. Also, it's less work, so we should like it that way. Questions about finding slope from a graph? It's easy from a graph because you can just count your boxes. It's a little harder when they make the boxes worth more than 1, but we can still do it. Nothing else? We're good? Okay, we'll continue. Now we are going to be finding slope from a table or from 2 points. Now this was in your notes earlier. I put it back on this slide so that we can use it. If you want to write it down again, you can. When we do it from a graph, we use rise over run. When we use points, we are going to use the slope formula. How many points do we need to use in order to use our slope formula? So we have to pick which 2 points we're using.
B.
Okay, it doesn't matter to me. So I heard somebody say the first 2 points. So we could use these 2 points. That's fine. You pick if you have more than 2 points. Okay, make sure you're picking pairs of points, side to side, not up and down. You got to have X's and Y's. Okay? We ready to try this out?
Yeah.
I'm going to take away the directions up at the top so I've got a little more room. When we use our slope formula, we have to make sure that our y coordinates are being used in the numerator or on top. It doesn't necessarily matter to me which one is 1 and which one's 2. Now, if we label these points that we chose, the first one is x1, second one is x2, y1, y2, then that'll make it pretty straightforward when we start plugging it in, if we have them labeled ahead of time. Yes, I will put them on Classroom. So, if we start plugging in, my formula is m equals, put a big fraction bar. What number did I label as my y2? 14. Minus my y1.
20.
On the bottom, my x2.
7.
Minus
4.
4. Okay, 14 minus 20 gives me what? Negative 6 over 7 minus 4 gives me
I'll give you no negative, no. 3.
3.
You got that?
Our slope would be negative 2. Final answer. If you want to put negative 2 over 1, you can. You do not have to.
It would still be right though if it was on the test.
Yes, negative 2 or negative 2 over 1. Either one will work.
Yes, that's what she said. It was
What?
Ain't they the same thing?
Yes, that's why I said either one works. All right, we picked our points. We labeled our x's and y's. x1, y1, x2, y2. Make sure that you do not mix and match. Meaning, this first point should have both 1s. Second point should have both 2s.
Always?
Always. We can't mix and match our x1 with our y1 or our x2 with our y2. We can't. Jasha?
Does it always have to be the first two?
No, we could use any 2 points. So we could use the first one and the last one, the middle 2, any 2 points.
So if we use no, yeah.
Okay? Let's go to our formula.
M equals 2 minus 2. Right?
2 minus 2 over.
And negative 1.
So I would be careful here.
No, it's not.
We can kind of work this either way because our y's are the same. But if I'm sticking strictly to this formula, what is my x2? The positive one minus
Negative 1, right?
the negative 1.
So either way it go, it'll be flipped.
So the other way would have been to have negative 1 minus 1, which will give us a negative number instead of a positive number. Okay?
That would be a plus sign.
Yes, we could change this into 2 minus 2 over 1 plus 1.
So it would be 0, then do a 1, and then it'll be 2.
Okay? 0 over 2. 0 divided by anything is 0. So our slope on this one is a 0.
So are we done with that domain and range stuff?
Until we have our chapter 3 test, yes.
Oh,
Yes.
jeez, sad. That's gonna be a test.
I mean,
What points are we using on letter C?
Huh? Oh, negative 3 and negative 3 and negative 3 and 0.
We want to stick with our first 2 again?
Yes, we do.
Okay, what's my x1?
Negative 3. And then that your y2 is, I mean, y1 is negative 3.
What about x2?
Negative 3.
And y2?
0.
So let's just use this formula they have and we're just going to plug our stuff into it.
Okay.
What is my y2?
0.
0
3.
minus 3.
We gotta do negative 3.
Good. It's minus a negative 3.
And then negative 3 minus negative 3.
Good.
Okay.
So subtracting a negative means we are really
Adding. So it'd be 3
Adding.
over
3 over what?
0.
3 over 0. Can we divide by 0?
Nope.
No.
No. This is when slope is undefined.
Yeah, that's what I'd say. If you put it on the calculator, it would say undefined. Back.
Yep. Yes, your calculator will not accept that. So that is when slope is undefined.
Miss Barrett.
If you want to continue using the first couple points they give, that's fine. If you wanted to mix it up, you could. This also works if they give you the points as ordered pairs. So they could give you the points on a graph, in a table up and down, in a table side to side. They could give you the ordered pairs. We could always use our slope formula.
Okay.
As long as you know 2 points, this will work.
Okay. X1.
Hold on.
Okay.
Questions about the different types of setups?
No.
Wait.
Jasha.
If it's the order pairs
Mhm.
and stuff, will it still have? Never mind. It sounds stupid if I ask. Never mind.
Okay, so let's label our x1, y1, x2, y2 from the points
Okay.
instead of from the table.
Okay.
What is 2 going to be?
X1,
What about 10?
Y1,
Good. 4
X2,
and 15.
Y2.
Why is it?
Okay, so our x's and y's come in pairs. So now we would have enough information to be able to confidently plug it into our formula.
2 subtract 4.
I don't think that's what I want first.
10 subtract 15. 4 subtract 2.
Dominic, what are you thinking?
5 because 15 minus 10 is 5.
What?
Okay.
What?
Like,
We do y2 minus y1. If you label this as your y2, you should be plugging in 15
But on
first.
the other one, we did the X1s and the X2s first.
we so good.
We can go back and look at that. It doesn't really matter as long as you're consistent.
So what if we?
So if you were to have done 10 minus 15 on top, your bottom would have to be switched also. So if we're doing x2 first, that's going to be our 4 minus 2. 4 minus 2 is
2.
2.
Two.
Now, let's look at it if we'd done it the other way. If we had done 10 minus 15 on top, what would we have to do on bottom?
2 minus 4.
2 minus 4. 10 minus 15, what does that give me?
Negative 5.
And 2 minus 4?
Negative 2.
A negative over a negative becomes a...
Positive.
So it'd be equals 5 over 2.
So it's the same thing. The key is that you have to be consistent, meaning you cannot take 10 minus 15 on top and then do 4 minus 2 on bottom. That's going to mess up your sign.
Yes, ma'am.
So if you're consistent, you can choose which is considered your first point and which is considered your second point. Okay, so either way on this one, we end up with m equals 5 over 2.
So that's our answer.
That's our answer.
See, stop talking like
Don't keep me on the top.
Z, silent during notes.
that.
What points are we using on letter E?
5 negative 2 and 5 negative 3.
5 negative 12
Yes.
What?
and 5 negative 3. It doesn't matter to me, we just need 2 points.
Gotcha.
So if I were to write them out,
5 negative.
5 negative 12. The other one is,
5 negative 3.
okay, we can write them as points.
Wait,
Jasha?
I thought you were supposed to put the X and the. Ooh, never mind. You were in the X coordinates. Okay.
Yep, we were just writing them as coordinates just so that you can see it different ways.
Okay. X1 is 5.
Okay,
X2
x1.
is 5.
Good, those are our
Y1
x's.
is negative 12 and Y2 is negative 3.
Good. Okay, you do not necessarily have to label your x1, y1, x2, y2 every time. However, it's helpful when it comes to plugging into our formula. So, slope equals.
Negative 3 minus 12.
Careful how you say that. Negative 3 minus negative 12.
Good job.
Okay, what about our x's?
5 minus 5.
What is negative 3 minus negative 12?
That'll be basically plus.
It would be plus.
Isn't that 15?
It is not.
9.
9.
0.
9 over 0, which means
It's
Oh, yeah.
our slope is undefined.
Hold on, whoa. Wait.
Right.
Anytime zero's on bottom of a fraction, our slope will be